Chairman Miller, other distinguished members, my name is Ann Gaydos, and this is my daughter, Paige. I'm here today to discuss what happened to Paige in the hope that no other child has to suffer as she did. From infancy, Paige was an intense and voracious learner. She was an early reader and could identify and draw any state in the US before she was 2. She developed strong interests in astronomy and geology. In early 2001, Paige, aged 7, was tentatively diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a diagnosis since discarded, and Asperger's syndrome. We were devastated, but vowed she would receive an appropriate education. We researched the options, and Paige started school that March in a mixed grade classroom, kindergarten through 3rd grade. At no time was the use of restraints on Paige ever discussed. Paige was then very small, barely 40 pounds. Within a week, she came home bruised and told me, "Mommy, my teacher hurt me and I couldn't breathe." Concerned, my husband went in to speak to the teacher, who said she had restrained Paige for refusing to stop wiggling a loose tooth while in timeout. She claimed she could not have caused the bruise. We were shocked that we had not known of this use of force and that such force could be used for something so trivial. Paige was also restrained for refusing to complete work. In June, my husband ran into a former aide from Paige's classroom who warned us that the teacher had forced Paige face down on the floor and sat on her. We immediately called a meeting with the teacher and principal in which we agreed that Paige would no longer be restrained, and I offered to come to the school should any crisis develop. The restraints did stop for a while, although Paige continued to be subjected to lengthy timeouts, some over 3 hours in length. The new school year seemed more promising until November of 2001, when Paige was hurt on 2 successive days, including being roughly jerked off a chair, which caused her to hit her nose on the desk. After we forced the issue, the principal eventually suggested an IEP meeting. My husband and I looked for an alternative placement, but nothing suitable was available. At the IEP, we insisted that Paige could not be restrained, hurt, or bruised by this teacher absent an emergency situation. It was agreed that we be called immediately to collect Paige if she was having problems. For a short time, this meeting helped to change the classroom from one that was aggressively punitive to one that was much more therapeutic and humane. While attending summer school in July of 2002 with the same teacher, I was called to fetch Paige. As we were driving home, Paige burst into tears and told me, "Mommy, I've been hurt all day." She had a severe abrasion on her upper right arm and a large bump on her head. I called the principal, told her Paige would not be returning, and stressed how upset I was that nobody had told me anything about what had happened. We would later learn that something in the teacher's demeanor that day had terrified Paige when she arrived at the school, and she had fled the school grounds. She was returned to the school safely, but the situation continued to escalate for several hours until her teacher took her into an empty classroom. There she grabbed Paige's wrists in her left hand, forced them up between Paige's shoulder blades, grabbed Paige's left ankle in her right hand, lifted her up off the ground, and drove her head first into the ground. No documentation of any of these incidents was ever filed. At an appointment the next day, Paige's neuropsychologist reported the incident to Child Protective Services, or CPS. CPS has no jurisdiction over public school teachers and referred the matter to the police, but the case was not ultimately prosecuted. I then complained to the administration and wrote to the school board. Only one board member ever responded, and his advice was to sue the district. Unable to trust the district with Paige, we placed her in a private school for special needs children, the Children's Health Council, or CHC. At CHC, we met another child that had suffered great trauma at the same school. This little boy, then 6 years old, was kept in seclusion timeout for the entire school day, 6 hours, for 19 successive school days. He was denied food, water, bathroom access, and education during this entire time. He too came home with unexplained injuries, and his mother had also complained to the district, CPS, and the police about these incidents. We were horrified and again wrote to the school board. On receiving no response to our repeated complaints, we filed a lawsuit through which we learnt of many similar complaints about the same teacher. Ultimately, the jurors were unanimous in their verdict and found the teacher, principal, and district liable for damages. A lawsuit was the last way in the world that this should have been addressed. I wish the story had a fairy tale ending, but the teacher was simply returned to the same classroom after hurting Paige. Shortly thereafter, CPS was again called after she threatened a child with a pair of scissors. She finally left that school. However, she went to work for another school district in California, where we learned there were further complaints of abuse. There was no central database established or requirement for schools to check for police or CPS reports, so this district had no warning. To this day, the teacher still holds a valid California teaching license. Paige is now 15, but has never fully recovered from these experiences. She has lost her former enthusiasm for learning and has never since been the stellar student she once was. She's still frightened of school, although she no longer hides under her desk as she used to do at her old school and when she first started at CHC. These events obscured an accurate diagnosis for years and delayed the opportunity to get the appropriate services and supports for Paige. I love my daughter with all my heart, and I believe she will achieve great things in her life, but I am enormously saddened by the tremendous loss of innocence, trust, and potential that she has suffered. I hope you can help children like her. Again, thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I will answer any questions you may have.